Hello, my name is Carlos Auilar, and I'm going to talk to you about the first chapter of our biology book, which is the science of biology. What is science? Science is an organized way of gathering and analyzing evidence about the natural world. It is a way of observing, a way of thinking, and a way of knowing. One goal of science is to provide natural explanations for events in the natural world. Science also aims to use those explanations to understand patterns and to make useful predictions about natural events. Regarding the how, scientists approach research in a pretty much the same way. They use the scientific methodology, which I am going to explain. Observing and asking questions. Scientific investigations begin with observation, the act of noticing and describing events and processes in a careful, orderly way. Observation leads to questions that no one has asked before. After posing questions, scientists use further observations to make inferences. An inference is a logical interpretation based on what scientists already know. Inferences lead to hypotheses. A hypothesis is a scientific explanation for a set of observations that can be tested in ways that support or reject it. Testing a scientific hypothesis involves designing an experiment that keeps track on various factors or variables. Experiments in which only one variable is changed are called controlled experiments. The variable that is deliberately changed is called the independent variable, and the variable that is observed and that changed in response to the independent variable is called the dependent variable. A control group is exposed to the same conditions as the experimental group except for one independent variable. Scientists make detailed records of experimental observations, gathering information called data. Scientists then use this data as evidence to support, refute, or revise the hypothesis being tested, and to draw a valid conclusion. Good scientists share scientific attitudes or habits of mind and lead them to exploration and discovery. Curiosity, skepticism, open-mindedness, and creativity help scientists generate new ideas. Communicating results. Scientists share their findings with the scientific community by publishing articles that have undergone peer review. In peer review, scientific papers are reviewed by anonymous independent experts. Scientific theories. Evidence from many scientists' studies may support several related hypotheses in a way that inspires researchers to propose a scientific theory. That ties those hypotheses together. In science, the word theory applies to a well-tested explanation that unifies a broad range of observations and hypotheses and that enables scientists to make accurate predictions about new situations. Charles Darwin's early observations and hypotheses about evolution are an example of this. The story of life. Biology is what we call the study of life. Living things are made of basic units called cells. These are based on a universal genetic code, obtain and use materials and energy, grow and develop, reproduce, respond to their environment, maintain a stable internal environment, and change over time. I'm now going to tell you some characteristics about living things. Living things are based on a universal genetic code. All organisms store the complex information they need to develop in their DNA. Living things grow and develop. Every organism has a particular pattern of growth and development. During development, the cells divide in different shapes, which means that they begin to look different from one another, and they begin performing different instructions. Living things respond to their environment. The environment often sends a stimulus to an organism, and these organisms react to the stimulus with signals. Living things reproduce. All organisms reproduce, which means that they produce new similar organisms. There are two types of reproduction: sexual reproduction, in which cells from two parents unite to form the first cell of a new organism, or asexual reproduction, in which a single organism produces offspring identical to itself. Living things maintain a stable internal environment. All organisms need to keep their internal environment relatively stable, even when external conditions change dramatically. This condition is called homeostasis. Living things obtain material and energy. All organisms must take their materials and energy to grow, develop, and reproduce. The combination of chemical reactions through which an organism builds up or breaks down materials is called its metabolism. Living things are made of cells. All organisms are composed of one or more cells. This smallest unit is considered fully alive. Taken as a group, living things evolve. Over generations, groups of organisms evolve and change over time. Some of the big ideas in biology that I'm going to quickly mention are cellular basis of life, information and heredity, matter and energy, growth, development and reproduction, homeostasis, evolution, structure and function, unity and diversity of life, interdependence in nature, and science as a way of knowing. Thank you for your attention, and I hope that you liked it.